it's funny that you mentioned that. Most people that go to school for business work for a major corporate company. They don't have their own business. They don't know how to run their own business. They know how to work for a major corporation, which is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But then when they want to go into entrepreneurship, they don't know how to run their own boat.
This episode is brought to you by AMG. If you're involved in any type of accident, don't hesitate to call 305 AMG Help. They are the winning team and they will have your back. Today on the Miami Hustle, we got Credit Karla in the building. In the Miami Hustle. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. She is a businesswoman out here in Miami, and we are going to talk about why credit is important and a lot of other things. So first of all, if you want to tell the people where you're from.
I'm from Miami.
Shout out Miami.
I'm from Miami, been in Miami since I was a little girl, since I was 6. But I'm originally from Honduras, which is my birth country. My parents were born, my brother, my entire family. But I claim Miami wherever I go. 305 till I die.
Yep, that's what I like to hear. So how was Honduras? You said you left when you were how old?
When I was 6.
Okay.
So I would be lying to you if I told you that I remember a lot, because I truly don't. But I'm grateful for it because it's made me who I am. It's made me a humble individual. It's taught me that it doesn't matter where you came from and where you grew up. You know, if you basically appreciate your background, your family. I love the food. I love my people's food. I'm grateful that my parents were very diligent about keeping my language, my primary language, which is Spanish. I came here, I was an ESOL student, even though it doesn't sound like it. So it was it was an interesting experience. I wasn't there very long. Kind of from age 1 to 6. I don't know what people remember. I remember getting on a plane here with my brother, my father. My mom had to stay behind because she didn't get her visa yet.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty traumatic. So that's what I remember about moving.
Yeah, well, shout out to all the Hispanics out there. I mean, like you said, it shows you that you got to be grateful. And living in Miami, where you're lucky to be here, we're lucky to be here. So how were you, like, throughout school? Like, did you go to college? Like, what got you into business?
So I did go to college, and what got me into business was that's funny because I was having a conversation with my business partner today, and we were talking about, like, why are we in business, right? So I think that from the moment that we're born, although we don't know, we know. There's something inside of us where we feel like, okay, I'm going to be great. I'm going to be an athlete. I'm going to do it. Innately, you're attracted to sports, or you're attracted to books. I was a nerd growing up. I wanted to read all the time. I wanted to learn. And being an immigrant, not knowing English, not knowing the culture, I wanted to immerse myself as fast as possible. So I went to books and I went to education. That was my outlet. And that's what helped me grow and excel. And the reason why I got into business was a book. It was a book about debt by Dave Ramsey. I can't remember the name right now, but
shout out Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, I mean, people judge him, but that book that I read, I remember reading it, and I believe I was 19, and I found it so interesting that I had never read these the concepts and the ideas, and I was like, wow. I'm like, I want to know more about this. And
how old were you at the time?
I was like 19.
Okay.
So, I mean, I love school. I learned a lot, but that's not what opened my appetite for entrepreneurship and finance. It was that book, and it was reading and education, and just learning that there was another world out there that I didn't know about. But reading is one of the ways to kind of discover a world that you may not know about. So that's kind of how I got into it.
For sure. I have a similar story because the first book that I ever read when I like outside of school that I took time out of my day to actually read it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And yeah, it is a great book. And like you said, it opened up my eyes to realize that, like, there's a whole other world. And if you don't read and find out, then you're just never going to know because no one's teaching it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I appreciate you for all your knowledge and knowing about credit as well. Because in business, people may not know because we don't get taught credit in high school. But I feel like we definitely should, especially going straight into college, going into debt. So, what did you learn from that book? Like, what were your biggest takeaways?
From the Dave Ramsey book, so I learned that people get into debt. Duh. But I learned that it is possible to get out of debt. And the book talked about certain principles when it came to money and debt, and it made me realize that we don't know what we don't know, but once we know, the most important thing that you can do is apply it, right? Because you have to apply knowledge. If you don't know, I can't remember the exact saying, but non-applied knowledge is just knowledge on ice. It's just sitting there. It's cold. You have to apply it. That's when it's hot. That's when it works. So I learned very, I guess you could say, basic things that if you really think about it, most of us know. The issue is we don't apply them. And so a big portion of that book was him giving testimonies of people applying those concepts and what they were able to do, get out of debt, go on vacation, send their kids off to college. And that kind of, it was a realization for me, like, okay, I'm intaking this information, but now what am I doing with it to make it a reality? That's what I got out of it.
And were you in debt at the time when you were reading it?
So, funny thing, the first time I read it, I was not, because I had just gotten into college. The second time I read it, I was in debt. It was after college, and I was like, let me get to work.
Yeah, no, that's how it is, especially out of college. So, how did you apply what you knew about credit into business?
So, like most people, so don't feel bad. I didn't, as I was growing my business, I kind of just went to using my own personal credit, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not the best option. So I did leverage my own personal credit. I always had a good credit. I got my first Amex when I was like 21 in college. And the problem with getting credit at such a young age is that you almost have no limit. There's limits on those cards, but in your head, you have no limit. So I was pretty good till my senior year where I was taking a bunch of trips, going on vacation. I put all the shots on my tab. Yeah, here's my credit card. I was doing that.
Yeah, enjoying life
And
for sure.
I mean, I was responsible about paying them, but no one taught me about utilization ratios and debt, you know? So when I got into business, I was still leveraging that debt, but I was able to successfully get myself out of debt, but then going into the business again, when I started going through the growth stage, I got myself into debt again. But nobody told me, which is what I know now, which is what I teach my business owner clients now, is yes, leverage your personal credit, but take it out on the business credit cards, business loans, business debt. You want to put it under the business. You do not want to put all the business debt under your name.
Why is that?
There's a lot of reasons. Number one, and I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving this advice. If your business goes south and all the assets and all the debt is under the business, you close down the business, it all dies. With the exception of the things that you do happen to personally guarantee, right? Which there's pros and cons to that, but we'll talk about it later. So that's
Well, like
number
if
one.
you own a house, probably don't do that. Like property.
Depends. It depends. It depends because it depends on the industry and depends on how much debt you're taking out.
Yeah.
So I would say, definitely, if a business goes down, but then you do your taxes, all that debt you can deduct it from the business. Versus if you put it under your personal and then you go do your taxes, they're gonna look at you like, okay, well, it's under your personal credit card. Like, what does that have to do with your business?
Yeah. Did you learn all of this through reading books, or was there like somebody that you look up to, a mentor, somebody that guided you?
So
or like your curiosity
I
just led
learned
you
it
to find it?
through my own mistakes, my own experiences. I'm going to answer your question just like a quick little story. When I first opened my business, right, my credit repair business, I was a child. I went to the bank and I said, I don't remember
Wait,
the
how
name of
old
the
were you
company.
when you were a
I was
child?
like 23 when I started my business.
Well, shout out to you for starting a business at 23, because I'm sure you learned a lot, but that's a big move. So,
But I was dumb. Like, I went to the bank and I was like, yeah, the name of my company is, like, I don't remember the exact name, but like, I said, Fix Your Credit LLC. And they're looking at me like, denied. Like, we're not giving you a bank account.
damn.
And I was like,
Just off the name?
I had to amend it.
Okay.
I'm not going to say my company name, but I had to amend it. But the part is that I'm trying to take at is that I put the name credit in it. Nobody told me that the credit repair or the credit industry in general is a high-risk industry. You should not blast it out there. You should put it in a DBA. No one told me that.
Yeah.
So I'm walking into banks all jolly, excited, like, yeah, I'm here to open my business. They're like, we're not giving you a bank account. And I was like, why? So it sounds funny now, but like stupid things like that. So that's one of the things that I learned is like you do need a mentor. And prior to me going heavy into my own business, I was in network marketing. That was like my root, my foundation. And I'm grateful for it because if you were looking for a mentor, if you're looking to start off and you're not really sure exactly what you want to do, it gives you the foundation, it gives you the education. It's low startup costs, you're not putting a lot on the line. And as long as you show up and you're hungry and you want it, you're going to learn. So that's something that I recommend to anybody out there who's unsure. If you don't want to go that route, cool, no problem. Find people in the industry that you want to go into that are successful and learn from them. Maybe it's just YouTube videos. You just take notes, right? Eventually you get to a point, they're offering a mentorship. You can afford it, go. Because it's going to save you years, money, time, energy, tears, blood, everything.
Yeah, and then for the people that are in debt currently, what advice would you give based off of everything you know now to like start to pay that debt off?
I mean, debt is one of those things that, depending on what you're doing with it, it kind of depends, right? There's good debt and there's bad debt. People are so taboo. Oh my God, I don't want any debt. I want to pay everything cash. When you are in business, it is good to have debt. It is good to leverage. It is good to have certain things. If you get a car under your name, that's a debt. But if you get it under your business, it's an asset. So it just depends what lens you're looking at business in. Debt is not a bad thing. You just have to understand it and you have to know how to manage it, right? So on the personal side, if you're in debt, you kind of want to take a look at your finances. How much money am I spending? How much money am I making? Where is my money going? Majority of the time, the reason why people get into debt is because they're spending money on things that they can't afford. The money's not in the bank account. So a general rule of thumb is if you can't spend that twice, not on your credit card, but out of your own pocket, you can't afford it. Put it back. That's like something that will keep you out of debt for a very long time. You guys have probably heard this, but live below your means. And I know living in a city like this, it can be a little challenging. But, it's not that hard to get some groceries and cook. You know, maybe you like to go out. There's no problem with that. Maybe you need to cut back on the days that you go out. Debt is not a bad thing. You just have to know how to manage it, right? I have a lot of clients who talk to me, oh my God, Karla, I'm in debt. The credit cards are calling me. What do I do? After the debt is basically settled in, the account is closed, you can settle it. You don't have to pay it in full. At the end of the day, those credit card companies, those loans, they want some of your money. They rather take 800 than an L. So speak up, talk. Hey, I'm going through financial hardship. Hey, I can't. Majority of companies are willing to work with you because at the end of the day, they're running a business. They're trying to get whatever they can get. There's a lot that I have to say about
No,
that.
that's good. I feel like a lot of people should be listening to this,
So
especially how times are now and everything is expensive in this city. So
it's very tough, but I would say the main thing about debt is your books, right? Checks and balances. It's like, where is your money going? How much money are you making? You might have to cut the Netflix for a few months. Sucks, but it's like people tell me, I want to get out of debt. I want to get out of debt. What are you willing to sacrifice? And that's why I go back to that book that I read. And that's what he talks about. He says, you can get out of debt, but where's your money going? Because in reality, majority of us think we don't make enough money, but we do. It's just we're misallocating the money. And that's why we're in debt, because we're throwing it in the places where it shouldn't belong. And then now we can afford to pay our bills. And that's a you problem. You have to sit down with you, have a come to God moment and be like, okay, where is my money going? Why can I afford to pay my bills? Pretty sure you make enough. It's just you might have to cut a few things.
yeah,
A
no, for
budget.
sure.
Start with a budget.
Yeah, so is there anything else that you like to read about? Like,
I don't do fiction. No offense to anybody.
okay.
Fiction is nice, but I live in a world with real problems, and as a business owner, I get paid to solve problems. So if I'm not learning how to solve more problems in the world, I'm not a more valuable individual, and I can't grow, and I can't grow financially and mentally. So I don't do the fiction.
No Harry Potter.
I like to watch them,
Yeah,
but
no, I
read
feel
them.
you.
I mean, I did read the whole Twilight saga when I was in high school, and that was pretty good. That's the most fiction that I did. But after I got out of that phase, I like to read about finance. I like to read about the trends in the economy. I like to read about history. I just feel like the answers are everywhere, especially in books. But if we're kind of consuming trash, that's what we're gonna produce. So if you want answers and you want to learn and you want to become better, you have to go to the source. The Bible. Read the Bible. There's a lot of answers in the Bible. I'm
Shout
serious.
out to the Bible.
I'm serious.
Shout out to
Yeah.
God.
It's true.
Yeah. No,
So
100%. Definitely.
yeah.
And I like what you said about if you're in debt and you're going through a lot of stuff, a lot of times you do have to just stop and like come to God and try to realize and understand what's really going on.
Yeah. I mean, you're the source of the problem. It's like when the addicts go to the meeting and it's like the first step is like accepting that like you have a problem. Like I had a shopaholic problem in college. I would just buy stuff. I don't even know why. And then I like when I would look at my credit card statements, I'm like, all right, girl, like what's going on? And like the stuff would just sit in the closet brand new, and I'm like, all right, so I need to stop shopping. It's not helping me out. I'm getting into debt, and I'm a cured shopaholic. If I can
So,
do it, you can do it too.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm sure a lot of people here have that problem.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays because it's so much easier to buy things. It's so much easier to pay on your phone. You have Apple Pay. You
Yep.
could just double tap and you're good. So all of this information I feel like is very valuable for a lot of people that are listening. And then when it comes to business, like obviously you have all the knowledge that it takes to be able to guide people and help people with credit repair. But how have you been able to scale and like build a business?
Business. So the number one thing with business, people get so caught up in like, oh, how are your books? How's your finance? How many leads are you getting? How many leads are you closing? What's your ratio? All that stuff is very, very important, and that is a very important aspect as to how you grow a business. But how's your head? How's your mindset? I remember when I was in network marketing and when I made my first 100K, and when it happened, it was so surreal. And the crazy when I thought about it and I tried figuring out, okay, like what's different, what changed, what did I do now to help me reach this mark that I didn't do before? And the reality is that I just changed my mind. I had this mentality of, could I do it? Am I capable? And for a long time I didn't think that I could. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, I'm doing this shit. Like, I'm gonna do it, whatever it takes. And so I would say, and maybe I sound cliche, but the reality is that like you are in between yourself and your next level, and that's just a reality. Things are gonna happen, relationships, family, the weather, whatever you want to blame it on, but that's always gonna be there. Are you familiar with Jim Rohn?
Yeah, for sure. Of
So
course.
I love Jim Rohn.
Yeah, he's a
But
legend.
there's like a
It's like an
whole there's a
OG.
whole audio that he does, and he's always talking about how people blame everything. People blame the weather, people blame their spouse, people blame the neighbor. He's like, that's never gonna change. Like that's always gonna be there. So if you keep making that or yourself the excuse, you're never gonna move forward. Once you remove that, sky's the limit. You could close 1,000 leads. Your ratio will get better. Skills, you can learn skills. You can learn how to grow a business. You can learn so many things. So what I learned is number one is change the mindset. Rather than saying, can I do it? I'm gonna do it. Even it sounds once again cliche. You gotta wake up and look at yourself in the mirror. You might not believe it, but you gotta tell yourself. And one day you wake up and you believe it, and then another day you wake up and you're doing it. Outside of that, yes, the logistical things are important. Having a system is very important. For a very long time, I didn't have a system. It was like, oh, I have leads on my phone. I got to write back to some emails. That doesn't work, guys. You got to think long term, right? Like, do you want to do that when you're 90 years old? No, you don't. You want to be retired. You want to be chilling, playing golf, whatever it is you want to do. What are you doing to create a business that one day you have it in a box and you could sell it to Johnny or whomever, and they know exactly how to take over. You can get your money for your business. If you are not doing that with your business, and that's not something you do in the very beginning, but you need to have that in the back of your mind. So systems. Another thing is continuing education. And in my business, continuing education is a little tricky because it doesn't really exist. But I do my due diligence. I read my lawsuits from clients. I go into the CFPB. I feel like everyone's industry has that. So there's so many things that I could tell you, but number one is your mindset. Number two is creating systems. Number three is once you do that, keep track of your numbers. You can't break records if you don't track records. That's very important. Get your finances in order. If you think it's hard, when you're on your own, when you're in business, whew, it's like 10x, you know? There's so many steps to it, but those are, I could say that's like the foundation. And then having a team and a support, a mentor, a group, someone that you can kind of tap in with, that can be like, oh, you're doing good, but you can do better. This is what you should do. That's so important because once I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's happened to me where I get to a point where I think I'm good, and then I have a bad month, and I'm like, I'm not good, you know? But when you have someone that's been through it, that can kind of be like, okay, you're doing good, but you need to do it. Like, they keep you on your toes, and it keeps you in a place where you never get complacent, and you never gonna say that you're never gonna have a bad day, because bad days happen to good people, right? But it just keeps you in check, and that's very important.
Yeah, for sure. I like what you said about building systems because I feel like that's really important in business. And then I feel like the hardest part about being a business owner is building those systems to be able to walk away from your business, and instead of being a self-employed business owner, you become a CEO where you're just watching the system work and finding all the things that are not working within it. So how have you been able to, well, first of all, learn about that? Is that just experience, or did you read something about that? And then also, how have you been able to implement systems?
So systems and that entire aspect of business is one of those things that like no one really teaches you. You kind of have to get to a point in your business where you're realizing like, I need help. And needing help isn't always hiring a bunch of staff, because now you cut into your overhead and now you're managing people, and people come with emotions and a lot of different things, right? So in this day and age, thankfully we have AI, we have so many things that need to be leveraged, but you need to know how to use them. So yeah, a lot of it, believe it or not, I've I have enough knowledge now, right? Where I kind of go in there and I'm messing with it, I'm tweaking with it. There's times where it's too complex and I can't. I have to hire someone. Hey, teach me, show me, set it up. But I'm a firm believer that, and there's a lot of business owners that I talk to that are guilty of this, where they're like, oh, I just pay Joe and Joe does everything, and I'm like, okay, if Joe dies tomorrow, what the hell is going on? And they don't know what's going on. So even if you hire, even if you set up a system, you need to understand how it works. I've had to learn through trial and error. I've had to learn through courses. I've had to learn through colleagues. Sometimes you got to go in there and just get your hands dirty, mess around with it. And it can be very frustrating because, as beautiful as technology is, it's also very frustrating. But once you figure it out and you implement it, it saves you time, energy, effort. So I can't give you precise advice for that because it's very different for every industry. But my best advice is find people who, or companies who are already doing it successfully, and copy their system. If it's broken, I mean, I'm sorry, if it's working, it's not broken, don't fix it. That's how the saying goes, right?
Yeah.
So just copy it, but understand how it works, because computers break down at any moment. Oh my God, it's not working. What do we do? Everyone panics. You need to know how to kind of be like, okay, it's okay, guys. This is how it works. My advice is just figure out what's working in your industry. There's a lot of programs, so many programs. If you're not using ChatGPT, if you're not using AI right now, you're honestly missing out. And like I said, if you're one of those business owners who are like, I don't like that, I'm old school, nothing wrong with that, but you're gonna get left behind.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't really gotten into ChatGPT too much, but I feel like what is it, like the new Google now? Like you ask it questions and it tells you a more
It's more than
specific
Google. Think
answer.
about ChatGPT as like your smart best friend who you can call anytime. Like if you're on Jeopardy and you have $1 million question, you can call
Yeah.
someone. That's what ChatGPT is. And I don't know if you're aware, but you can train ChatGPT to think like you and talk like you.
Whoa,
So you
that's
can go in
crazy. I didn't
there,
know about that.
and I mean, you're typing, but essentially what you're doing is you're writing code. And you're telling it, if someone asks me this question, I want you to respond in this tone with this thing. So that's the beauty about AI, is that it's adaptable to you, to your industry, but you got to train it. So treat it like as an employee. Hey, I need you to do this
Yeah.
at this time, talk like this, make sure you don't say this, say that, make sure like you get the benefit out of it when you train it and you tell it exactly what you want it to do. It works for you. But if you don't know how to work it, it will not give you the best benefit. So I tell people all the time, the thing with ChatGPT is like people don't know how to use it. The more precise that you are, the more information that you give it about your field and what you do, the better that it will work.
Yeah, it's a whole nother world. Technology is crazy.
There's a whole free version like that you don't even have to pay for.
Yeah.
That could be working for you.
That's wild.
And I'm not getting paid for this. I just use it and it's good.
Yeah, I got to check that out. So, out of college, did you go straight into wanting to be a business owner?
No. The answer is no.
What led you into that?
So when I got out of school, I didn't know what to do. I was like most people, and I was like, they paint you this idea in this picture, and they're like, oh, you're gonna get a job. And my background was in journalism and writing. So I wanted to be a journalist, but then when I got out of school, I got hit with the harsh reality. Journalism is very much like being an artist. And I was like, I don't really want to go through that to earn my money. Like, I don't want to be a struggling journalist. So I was like, what can I do? So I got into teaching. But before I got into teaching, I couldn't find a job. So I worked at Starbucks for 9 months when I got out of college. And it was probably one of the most humbling but depressing experiences at the same time because I felt like an absolute failure. I just went to school, got a full ride. What the hell am I doing working at Starbucks? Drive through at till midnight.
Yeah.
Right here on 87th and 25th in Miami. It was an experience, and I'm grateful for it because I feel like it made me a more humble individual, and it made me realize that it doesn't matter your accolades or anything. At the end of the day, when you need to make money, you need to make money, and you need to do what you need to do. So I was like, all right, been at Starbucks for 9 months. What do I do now? And a friend of mine is like, hey, they're hiring at my friend's school. Do you want a job there? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I have my degree in English. I could do that. So I started an education like that. It was by accident. I didn't plan it. Because people are like, oh, you went to school for English? You're a teacher. I'm like, no, I did not go to school for that.
I thought you would have gone to school for business. So
At the time, I wasn't aware that that was my calling. I had an itch and I knew, but I wasn't aware, you know? And it's funny that you mentioned that most people that go to school for business work for a major corporate company. They don't have their own business. They don't know how to run their own business. They know how to work for a major corporation, which is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But then when they want to go into entrepreneurship, they don't know how to run their own boat. It's like totally it's almost mind-blowing, but it's like day and night, you know? So I've kind of got it and do that. I think it would have made me biased, and I don't think I would have got into business. I would have been corporate probably forever. But anyway, so I got into teaching, and I did teaching for a while. And when I got to the 8th grade portion of my teaching career, I was like, hell no, I need to get out of here. This is wild. And I quit my job, but I said, okay, what skills do I have? What do I have? I had my teaching certification at the time. I learned how to help students get scholarships. So I said, I'm starting a tutoring company. And I'm going to have the students not come out of pocket. I'm going to have the state pay me, and I'm going to tutor them. And that's kind of how I got into entrepreneurship.
How'd you know about that? Like, how'd you figure that out?
So I worked at a private school for about a year.
The ones that don't have scholarships, the state pays for their tutoring?
Yes.
That's a good connect to have.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're aware, parents, but there's many programs that the state funds that, depending on if your child has a certain learning disability or if they had low scores on something, the state will fund tutoring, certain resources for them, right? And that's something that I became very passionate about, being a teacher, because I realized that even though people have resources, they don't know that they're available to them. And that's kind of why I started my company, my tutoring company. And I'm like, well, perfect business idea. You don't have to pay me. I provide you services, and we're all happy. And everybody loved it.
Yeah.
You know, the parents didn't have to pay, and
the more clients you got, the state would pay for that.
I would have to. I billed the state of Florida. The state of Florida would pay me. Now, anybody who's ever worked with the state knows that it's not as fun and as glamorous as you think. They're late in paying you. The paperwork has to be like on point. It's not simple, but I was passionate about helping my students and helping my parents because they didn't have to come out of pocket. So I did it for a year, and I got to a point where I was too young. I wasn't experienced enough in business. I didn't know how to manage employees. I didn't know how to manage payroll, all these things that were coming at me all at once. Customer service, the tutors. We need a tutor here. It was just too much.
Yeah, when you start a business, you're wearing all the hats, no
Yeah,
employees,
yeah,
and you're probably investing your time and energy and money into it.
oh yeah, I was driving between Broward and Miami. I was all over the place, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even that. It's just at the time I didn't have anyone guiding me. And you asked me, how did I learn about that? So I worked at a private school, and the private school, that's how they got paid. All scholarships. Nobody paid. Every now and then you had a couple people that paid out of pocket. And so I got very close with the staff and the people who managed that. And I was like, oh, how does that work? And tell me about that. And that's how I learned. And then I left and I leveraged it. That's how I started my first business. I forget about it every time. People are like, what do you do? I'm like, credit. I was like, oh, I forgot I had a tutoring company at one point.
Wait, that was your first business
That was
and you
my
forget
first
about it?
business.
So what,
I forget
so
about
what
it.
came next? Then you started helping people with credit?
No, then I got into life insurance.
Oh, wow. That's a whole different hustle within itself.
So I started reading more finance books, and I found the industry so interesting. And that's how I got into life insurance. I did that for about 2 years.
Would you recommend people get life insurance?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I know there's a lot of taboos about it, but the reality is nobody plans on dying. Like, we all think we're going to live forever. We all know we're going to die, but in reality, we wake up and we think, oh, I'm going to be here tomorrow.
Well, I have life insurance, but I don't even think of it that way. I think of it as a good place to put my money every month.
That too.
It is good to have in case you, God forbid, something happens to you, but it's also a really good place to just put your money, like be on point every month, put this amount, and then it's going to build up equity for you in the long run. That's what I got out of it. So
I agree.
That's why so shout out to all the life insurance agency holders and the agents out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just anything where you're investing money into yourself, your future, or your family is a good place to be. And that I believe that's what life insurance is about. And outside of that, you're speaking from a certain perspective, right? Like single, don't have a family, right? That's your perspective. There's people who have dependents and they wake up every day, they go to work very humbly, but they don't think anything's going to happen to them right away, and life happens, things happen. I've heard of many people where like parent passed away, both parents passed away, and it's so sad and it's so unfortunate, and they were not educated, and now the kids are like going through the state, gotta find auntie, somebody, and they're very sad stories, but that's where life insurance comes into play. So that's why I became very passionate about it. And just the financial aspect, which is like what you're talking about, I did that for 2 years, but South Florida market for life insurance is not it. It is not it. It is not. It's very competitive, and there's nothing wrong with competition. I did very well during my time with life insurance, but it was like I would come in, nice young lady, let me teach you about life insurance, let me tell you, and then would come the other major, just crush it, like make it about money, make it very capitalist, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like, and maybe this is just my experience, right? But I feel like the life insurance industry over the years just became very about the money and not about what it really is. That was my takeaway. So I'm like, it didn't align with myself, and it didn't align with my morals and my purpose overall. And I was like, all right, I'm done with this. And so I left.
Did you have another another plan after you just left?
I really didn't. So as a very young entrepreneur, you're like a little butterfly. You're just flying. You're meant to be free, but you don't know
what I feel like in entrepreneurship, especially when you're young, is when you're like in the jungle and you're just swinging through vines, and you let go of one vine and you're not even sure if you're gonna be able to grab the next one. But you just reach and then see what happens. And then you just grab that one, and then you take another swing, and then you're just swinging through the jungle.
That's exactly
hoping
what
you
I
don't
did.
grab a snake by accident.
That's what you do. You're young and you're full of life, and you can take the risk, and that's exactly what I did. And so I left life insurance. I didn't really have a plan, and then at that particular time, this was 2016, and that's when the whole credit thing was popping off. That was like the thing.
The credit thing, like
people were getting credit into repair was popping.
Okay.
Like it was a new emerging business. I'm sure it had been around for years, but especially in South Florida, it was like popping. Like it was like the hottest club in the corner in terms of business, right? And I had my business partner from life insurance be like, hey, Someone presented this to me. I think it's a good idea. We should do it. And at the time, I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, if you jump, I jump kind of thing. So we transitioned together. And that's where I started my whole credit repair industry, 2016.
So you started your own company within credit repair, like you get your own clients and then you help them. Like how does the credit repair company work?
So when I started credit repair, I was not on my own. I was working with a company. I was acquiring my own clients. I was doing my own marketing. I was more of like an independent contractor. I built a very huge clientele. Fast forward a few years, the company went through some legal issues, and then that's when I realized it was time for me to part ways. And this wasn't that long ago. This was 2 years ago, where I went on my like completely on my own, like systems, customer service, everything you could think of. And it's been a journey. But I wouldn't say that I started my business 2 years ago. I started my business way before that. But I started the role of like, I'm in charge. I do everything. I take care of payroll about 2 years ago. And it's been quite a journey. I'm grateful for it. It hasn't been easy. Everybody, sometimes I feel like the people that, like, the guy who changes your oil, whatever, the business owner, they make it look so effortless, but you don't truly know what they've been through. And there was a moment in my trajectory in business where I was almost out of business, bad business decisions, bad business partners, because I ventured off into other things as well. And the only thing that kept me afloat was the thought that one day I woke up and I said, I'm going all in and I'm not going back. And going back for me is going back to my job. That has never been an option since the moment that I quit way back when. And I'm not judging anyone who has, but for me, it was like, I made this choice, whatever it takes, whatever many tears it cost me, whatever. And so when I had to, once again, I've had to make so many transitions and rebirths in my journey. And this last one was like, it was rough because I'm like, all right, I've been doing this for a minute. Like, again, like, really, God, like, is this a joke? But I'm gonna happen because it's made me better. I have more peace of mind. I have more control. And it's been better overall, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, that is the life of an entrepreneur. A lot of ups and downs, and just figuring it out on your own, and just experiencing stuff, and then learning. So, what else have you? You said that you've also ventured off into other things. What else have you dabbled in? What are your
So,
side hustles?
I tried e-commerce when the whole Amazon thing was popping. Not I didn't do drop shipping. I did FBA because
Yeah, I
I'm.
looked into that too. I was
Whew,
considering it.
I am
Do you
so I am
recommend?
so glad you did not.
Oh, okay. So
That's what we
don't
were talking
recommend.
about. That's the 100K in debt, bad business move, bad business partner. The whole thing was bad, and at the time I didn't know, because one thing that I realized is when you're so eager and you're so hungry and you're so young, you fail to sometimes do your due diligence. You're just excited. You just want to go, and there's nothing wrong with being excited and wanting to succeed, but there are times now I've learned, right? It's like not everything that glitters is gold. So I had to learn that, and that was one of those not everything that glitters is gold situations where everybody was like, yeah, I made 100K in Amazon this month. It's amazing, FBA. And so at the time, I had the money to invest. I did take out some more capital, and I'm like, oh, we're going all in with my business partner, who was my boyfriend at the time. We went all in, all in. We hired the wrong person. We didn't know that at the time. And it was such a horrible experience. And I wouldn't fully blame it on my bad business partner or the person that we hired. I would blame it on the fact that we were so excited, we were so eager to make money and succeed, that we did not take the time to really study the business. What does it really take to run an e-commerce business? Everybody, and this is one thing that I hate, and I'm gonna use the word hate. I know it's a strong word. I hate this about gurus and people, even people in my industry online, who make it seem so easy, and so like, oh, I did this in 2 days. No, the hell you did not. Like, don't lie. It grinds my gears. It's such a huge pet peeve. So that happened with Amazon, but at the time it was like the popping business. Like, everybody was getting into it. So what I learned was, learn what the hell business you're getting into. Everything about it. Even if you're not running the day-to-day operations, when you look at those reports and something's off, if you can't look at it and know something's off, that's a problem. because your employees or whoever you hired could be stealing from you and you have no idea. Understand that when you're getting into some sort of anything commerce business, you're dealing with inventory, you're dealing with shippings. I had stuff coming in from overseas, and during the time it was COVID, and stuff was delayed, and it was such a nightmare. It was such a nightmare, and I learned my lesson. You need huge lines of credit when you're dealing with inventory because you need to replenish it. Stuff is out, you need to replenish it. It doesn't matter if you're not like stuff, it's a store. You know, it's like if you were to walk into Nike or one of the major stores that you know and half of the shelf is gone, you're going to walk in there like, what the hell is wrong with this place? It's such a big responsibility to run any type of commerce business. If you run a commerce business, God bless, because I had one experience and it almost took me out. So that was something else that I kind of tried to do. I mean, I did do it, and it was terrible.
Yeah,
I feel like I need an episode for that one.
No, but it is something that people portray to make it look easy because the thing is that people like easy money. So when they see something that's easy money, they go into it, and then these people are most likely charging people for a course to show them how they make the easy money, and then they're just bringing in money doing that. But I agree with what you're saying. You have to really understand what you're about to get into because you're going to dedicate a lot of time and money into it, no matter how easy it looks.
Yeah.
And also, I want to give the people that are listening some like credit advice or credit tips, because again, I feel like we should learn about credit within our high school years to then really prepare us going into college mostly, and then also the real world. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna have to most likely build a business off credit.
Right.
So what would be like the biggest things that people that don't know anything about credit should know about credit?
Credit. I've been doing credit now for over 5 years, and it's such an interesting topic because credit is constantly changing. It's not set in stone. I wish it were, but it's not. The way credit was in the 80s is not the same that credit was in the 2000s, and not even 2 years ago, because the companies, the major organizations that create a credit score and provide this information to consumers and to companies that use that information to give you credit are constantly changing it for multiple reasons, to protect themselves, to help their consumers. In reality, not always to help the consumer. So one huge tip that I give my clients is like, don't get so choked up on the number. I know the number matters. It does matter, right? But you have to really be more concerned about what makes that number. How do you get that 700? How do you get that credit that doesn't fluctuate all the time? So, number one is don't obsess over the score. Number two is understand what makes the score. So, I'm going to ask you, Chris, do you know the 5 factors that make up your credit score?
I know the utilization rate has to be under 30%. The payments have to be on point, so no late payments.
Right.
You have to have credit. The longer you've had credit or owns credit, whatever, is better.
Right.
And then I would say the credit limit. Is that one of them or no?
That goes under utilization.
Yeah. So then I'm missing 2.
Yeah, so you have 35%, which is your payment history, which is what you mentioned. So pretty much your goal is to be on time.
Is it the amount of cards? Is that one of them?
Not necessarily. So you want to have 100% payment history, meaning that you haven't missed a late payment. Late payments are probably the worst thing for your credit. You could have exceptional credit in that moment that you make a mistake. You have one late payment, your credit goes down 50, 70 points. So 35% of your credit is your payment history, right? Your on-time payment history. Then you have 30%, which is your payment utilization. I'm sorry, your utilization, not your payment. That was a previous. Utilization is how much of your available credit are you using. So majority of people maxed out. 100%, meaning they have a total of $20,000 in limits and they're using all $20,000. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's probably the worst thing. At one point in my life, that was what was really hurting my credit. And because I was so young, I was still in college, I didn't get it. I was like, I don't get it. I pay everything on time.
That's the thing. No one teaches us these things.
Right.
It has to be under 30%, right?
Right. You can pay on time. You can have 1,000. That's what you're saying. It doesn't matter how many. No, it doesn't matter how many credit cards. If you have 20 credit cards and they're all maxed out, your credit sucks.
Yeah.
And you're getting denied for everything. And it doesn't matter that you have 20 credit cards, which is crazy to me, but that's how it works. So 30% is utilization rate. Keep it under 30. Really, you want to be between the 10 and 20. But yes, 30 is like that sweet spot, right? Then after that, you have credit mix. So basically, it's a mixture of revolving credit, which is credit cards, lines of credit, and installment credit, which is student loans, car loans, personal loans. A lot of people are like, oh, I have all these credit cards. I don't get it. Yeah, at the end of the day, you go to a mortgage lender, you've never had any type of loan. How do they know you're going to be able to sustain a loan? A loan is not the same as a credit card, and a credit card is not the same as a loan. They're very type of different payments. Loan usually has a fixed interest rate, fixed payment. The reason why a credit card is called revolving is because think of a revolving door. It moves, right? If 1 month you use a bunch, interest rate goes up on the card, payments are a little higher, you bring it down. That's why it's revolving, right? That's the other factor. Then you have the age of credit. Age of credit is very tricky. People often will close credit card accounts. Be like, oh man, my credit went down. Yeah, you just literally threw away a bunch of history that you had, let's say for 12 years. Oh, I don't use that card. I'm just going to close it. And you just threw away 12 years of history. And now your credit, like, that's never coming back. And that is probably the most painful. That's what's happened to me.
I didn't know that once you close a credit card, the history goes away too.
It's gone.
So that's important for people to know.
It's gone because the only thing that your credit, like what is making up your credit right now, is your existing credit history. Open accounts, active history, not previous accounts. They're there. People could see them, like a lender, a credit card company, but they're not open. So they're not being taken into account for, right? So that's your age. You want to be, the sweet spot is over 5 years. If you get a new credit card every year, your average age of credit is going to be trash. You get a new credit card every year. It's going to be like a few months. You're a child.
Yeah.
And then the last factor is basically new credit. So how often are you applying for new credit? Or we call them inquiries, right? Inquiries are not bad. People are like, oh my God, inquiries are so bad. Like, they're not bad. But when you have more than 5 inquiries across the board, meaning you have 15, you look a little desperate. You're going to every corner applying for credit. The rule of thumb is 524. So you shouldn't have more than 5 inquiries in the last 24 months and on through credit bureaus. And that's how you calculate credit. So if I can give anyone advice, is adhering to all those. Don't be desperate applying for credit all the time. If you got denied 2 times, that should tell you, like, cut it. You're not going to get approved, right? If you have 20 credit cards and not one loan, maybe it's time it doesn't have to be a crazy loan. It could be a secured loan too. You don't have to actually go get a loan. You can do a secured loan, but it's on your credit, right? If you are closing accounts every time, or you're opening new accounts every time, you're screwing up your age of credit. That should let you know, maybe I need to chill on getting a new. I tell clients, if you're ready to get a credit card and you want to get a few, get them all at the same time. So they mature at the same time. If you get them at different times, you're hurting yourself, right? Obviously, always pay on time. That sounds stupid, but people don't pay on time.
From what you said, it's the most important one, right? 35% of it?
That is the highest one. That one and your utilization. And there's people who have everything perfect, but their utilization's messed up and they can't get approved for anything.
Yeah, that one's important, and I feel like it's kind of a hidden thing because if you don't know about it, you just don't know about it. Like if somebody has a credit card that has 10,000 credit limit and another one that has 5,000 credit limit, someone might think that they're able to use 9,000 on this one and 1,000 on this one and then make their payments on time so they're good. But in reality, when you have 9,000 credit with a 10,000 credit card, your credit score is going to go down.
Yeah.
And that's utilization.
Right. So just look at every single card you have.
So I would just say one more thing. If you are in that situation, before you get the 9,000 in debt, I would say get another card or two to get your credit limit up to then the utilization down.
Yeah, so the ratio, that's how you offset the ratio. That's a good way to look at it.
Oh, and also, I would recommend, I don't know what you think about this, but once a year, if your inquiries are low, calling your current credit
To get an
cards and
increase.
asking for an increase, because
Yeah.
that also goes with utilization.
Right. Yeah, you could do that. And then that's all great advice. But then if we go back to like the core, look at every single card, and on the back of your credit card, write down at what point you're going over that 30% on that card. And that's where you're always going to keep
Oh,
them all
true.
leveled. That's great, but some people, that's not enough for them. Like
No,
when they're swiping it,
that's
they're
good
like,
advice. I've never thought
when
of
they're
that. But
swiping
yeah.
it, they're like, oh.
Yeah, you need to know the number. Yeah, that's like basically like do the math on it. Like if you
Yeah.
get a new credit card and your credit limit is 7,500, do that times 0.3 and figure out the max you can spend on this card.
Right.
Because it's almost like if you don't know, it's like an invisible barrier. Like if you don't know what your
You're just
real
gonna keep
max is,
swiping.
yeah, you're gonna.
And then before you know it, you're gonna get a call and say, your credit card's maxed out. And you're gonna be like, what? How did that happen?
Yeah. I didn't know utilization was that high up on that list, but that's pretty important.
I've seen people with 700 credit scores, never been late, everything's perfect. Utilization, not good. And not good, like not even 100, but they're at like 80% declined. Everything declined. Nothing matters. Because they see you as a risk.
Yeah, because you're not paying your credit off. So
Right.
probably
So
not gonna
now
get
they're
their
like,
money
oh,
either.
he's going to default. She's going to default. We're not giving them credit. Yeah. That's how it works, unfortunately.
So nowadays, are you focused on the credit repair company?
So I have my credit repair company. That's like my bread and butter. I also have another company with a partner where we focus on business financing. So if you're a business, you're looking for loans, you're looking to, you're looking for capital, you're not sure how to structure, you're not sure how to build your business credit, we can help you with that. So that's another business that I have. And I just started an Etsy store selling t-shirts.
Wait, hold up. You have a third business?
Yeah, I just started it. I just opened it. It's called 305 Collective Designs.
Hey, shout out 305 Collective Designs. Go get your merch.
Yeah, I mean, I just started it. Like I said,
So you're like designing clothes and selling it? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I'm designing t-shirts. As a business owner, I'm always looking at things and I'm always trying to figure out what can I do. And the reason, and it's e-commerce. And I always said I would never go back into e-commerce, but I did my research this time. I really got my hands dirty with the information and everything. And I'm like, okay, why am I starting this? It's a low cost. It's not crazy. My startup cost with the Amazon FBA was crazy. I had to get trademarks. I had to get inventory. When you're doing print on demand, it's literally on demand. Like if it's not ordered, it's not getting made. I'm not sitting here with a bunch of inventory that I don't want. And then at that point, it's just having a good system with designing, with keeping up with the trends. And it's easy. Like it's not something that I'm like, I have to go out of my way. It's like when I have downtime, I'm working on my shirts and then I go back to my other stuff. But I like it. I'm excited about it. I just started. It's been a month.
Well, shout out to you.
Thank you.
So do you ever feel overwhelmed with all the hats that you wear? And life being life, like distractions and being a social person?
Majority of business owners, and I don't know if you can agree with me, we have this complex where we think we're Superman.
My biggest, I would say, my biggest, like, I guess, downfall or whatever is that I believe I could do everything.
Yeah, that's like a business owner thing.
Yeah.
Like, we have a problem. We think we could like jump off the balcony and just fly, and like, no, you're gonna die. but we believe it wholeheartedly, and that's what makes us so amazing. So
we're willing to take a risk and like because you feel like, oh, I could do that too.
We're gonna build the parachute on the way down.
Do that too, yeah.
So the overwhelming thing, it comes like we're human. We feel, we cry. There's days when I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, I see a text or a call or an email from my client, and I'm just like, I'm like, ugh, like, why are you texting me? But I've come to terms with it. When I first started my business, I had a problem. Like, it would be like midnight, and my partner at the time would be like, you don't have to reply. I'm like, I have to reply. Like I have to. And as I've gone through my journey, I realized like, I can be a human. I'm entitled to my business hours. Like every business that has, every brick and mortar business, you walk in, they have their business operations. They open at a certain time, they close at a certain time. So I learned like, homegirl, you gotta close up the shop. Like you know, for your own sanity, and also because sometimes we think that if we work longer, we're gonna keep like, no, you're gonna burn out, and your quality of service is gonna get worse, you know. So I do get overwhelmed. I do have my moments, but I have to remember I'm not Superwoman. I'm a human, and it's okay to take moments, and then come back tomorrow and start over again. That's it.
Yeah, so I mean, shout out to you for everything that you've done, everything that you've learned in your journey so far. And I feel like a lot of people are going to listen to this and really appreciate the advice that you're giving. Because again, I feel like credit, whether you're a business owner or not, it's extremely important. And if you don't
Yep.
understand it, it's going to hurt you in the long run, like always. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you for being here. What do you have next? Like, what do you have cooking?
In
I mean,
terms
you
of
already have
business,
3 businesses,
I
so
mean, yeah.
what can, what
No, right now my new baby is my
building,
Etsy
scaling?
store. That's my new
You want to
baby.
shout out your businesses? Like, there's a credit repair business, so should they hit you up
So that
on?
you can find me on all social media platforms. Credit Karla. You literally just type in credit with a C, Karla with a K. Some people misspell it. It's cool. So that is all over the platforms. And if you reach out to me and you need business services, then I'll reroute you with my partner and myself. I'm so involved. It's just that's him and I do that together. And then my Etsy store, it's a baby. I just launched it. It's called 305 Collective Designs. I have a sale going on right now. Everything's 60% off.
Go get that now.
Yeah, I mean, I realized, okay, I named this store 305, so I'm actually launching a lot of like 305 inspired designs, like the Miami Vice colors and stuff like that. I'm very passionate about my city, so
You're in the
yeah,
Miami hustle, so
that's pretty much what I have going on. Next moves, honestly, I've been telling myself for years, like I'm gonna get into real estate. I'm gonna get into real estate, and not like your cliche, like I want to be a realtor. So I'm gonna be very transparent. I actually studied for my real estate exam. I took the test, and I did it because I had a lot of clients who naturally I'm fixing their credit. They want to buy a house. Hey, can you help me? And in my head, I'm like, okay, you're missing out on money. Like these people want, like they
yeah,
literally were like, can you sell me the house? And I'm like, I'm
yeah.
not licensed, you know. So I took the test. I didn't pass by 2 points.
When I took the test for the first time, I
Two
needed a
points.
75. I got a 74.
2 points.
So I feel
It's
you.
so frustrating. And I said,
And it took me 3 hours to take that test. Not to mention all the studying I put into it.
it took me three
So
tries, and the first two weren't even my fault. First time was like technical. Second time, the studio, the place where I was. Anyway, I said, screw this. What's today? The 26th.
I don't even know.
Basically, my licensing course expired the 25th of this month, so now I gotta retake it
Nah, you didn't.
all
You
over again.
didn't. No, are you sure? Mine is in
No,
September.
it's 2 years. I did it 2 years ago. The actual course.
Okay.
It lasts for 2 years. You can retake the test
Yeah.
as many times as you want, but you have 2 years. I
Yeah,
let
yeah.
the,
The renewal test.
right. I let the 2 years go by, so now I gotta redo it all over again.
This year, like this.
Yeah, like
Are you sure?
yesterday.
Because I know that at least my date for my
Yes.
license is in September.
No, I looked it up. Mine's done.
Damn. You gotta retake the state
Mine's
exam.
done. So
All right.
so I said, you know what? I'm gonna commit to this. I'm possibly even gonna physically go to school, which I don't really want to do. But I feel like the whole real estate thing has been calling me for so long. Not your typical realtor. Like I have so many business owners that I work with, and so many people who are very heavily invested into larger projects that I know that because of the relationships that I've built and the knowledge that I have, it's something else that I can dive into. And I've been putting it off because I haven't been giving it enough significance. And so many things recently have kind of like slapped me in the face where it's like I'm playing with myself. So y'all can keep me accountable right now on this episode. I'm gonna go sign up for real estate school. And I'm gonna try and I'm gonna do it, and that's my next thing.
Well, what we like to do on this show is document people's success. So you're speaking it into existence. Now you're gonna go out and
I
go
have
get
to.
it. By the next time you're on the show, we can talk about how you said you were gonna do something and you went
And
out
I
and did
did
it.
it. Okay, I like that.
So that's what we're about. Again, shout out to you, Credit Karla, for anybody that wants any credit advice or business advice. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we wish you all the success in the world in all your business ventures.
Thank you. And I want to give a shout out to Chris for having me. I just met him, but I feel like I can relate to him, and he has so much going for him. And honestly, if you listen to his podcast, you have a lot to learn from him. So tune in.
Thank you. I
Every
appreciate that.
episode.
Yes, please. Shout out to us.